So, the last part of tonight is, you're so quiet, thank you, is coding together with Git, but as a team. Now, we kind of touched on this a bit before, but the one difference that kind of underpins everything we're about to talk about is that what we did before was based on the idea that you have like this one history. You know, there was like that line we had and you might have diverged off that line. But when you're working with groups of people, the main difference is that you'll typically have a series of kind of parallel histories all working at the same time. And it's how we help manage things, which will be more evident soon. So that's really what underpins what we're about to talk about. And it's all just around this idea of what we call branching. Branching being this idea of kind of parallel histories running at the same time. A lot of what we have today is, again, a live demo. If you want to go look through the theory of things some more, it's best to go look at some guides. It's just very hard to talk to these things without showing you. But before we get started, we need to really look at what is called like the Git tree model, which is how to think about Git. And it can be understood as a tree-like structure. And if you look at it, you can see there's a green line at the top there. And that green line is kind of what we were doing before. So if you forget all the other colors, the green line is like just the last hour of a lecture, where we had a commit, we did some work, we had a commit, we did some work, we had a commit. But when we look at the idea of branching, it's where we can kind of have many of these happening at the same time, and they end up kind of colliding again later on. It all seems very complicated, but it's not too bad in reality. And technically speaking, if you think about Git as a collection of, like the way to model Git in your head, and this is like really conceptual, as in like, when I started using Git, I didn't actually kind of grasp this for like 2 years. That being said, it was never really taught when I studied here. Is that if you think of Git as a series of commits, each commit has one parent. Every commit in Git has a single parent. And a branch in Git, which are all these kinds of different parallel realities, is really just a pointer to a particular commit. You can kind of model the whole thing. Now, that conceptually I don't think would mean a lot to you at the moment, and that's totally okay, but they're the three things to take away. Git's a collection of commits. Each commit has one parent. A branch is a pointer to a particular commit. Don't get lost in like 1511 pointers or something. I'm not like, there's not some weird interlude here where we're going to like pull out C and start putting asterisks everywhere and give everyone a headache. It's literally just saying it's just referencing a particular commit. Now, branches, what you see on the screen here is probably pretty familiar to what we saw before. Commit, 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 commit. Things just move along through time. In Git, we have this idea of what we call a master branch, or in a lot of modern software, they're starting to call it a main branch. But if you think about master and main, they mean the same thing. In this course, all the software we have set up refers to it as master. And all the labs you have will be master, but the repo I made before said main in it, but again, it's all the same. Your master branch in Git is like the main branch you have. So what we were doing before, we were actually using a branch. It was just there was only one branch, and that branch was just that chain of commits. And specifically, when I say something like my master branch, what I'm actually pointing to is the last commit. And you can kind of understand this when we look at, say, our carbonara. That was a fun time, wasn't it? I remember that. When we look at our carbonara thing, you can see here it says the main branch in Git, or it might be called master. What that's actually referring to is that top commit there that says compromise of pasta. And that commit has a parent, which is the one under it, and that commit has a parent, which is the one under it, right? Now, what we can do with Git is we can actually, at a moment in time, create a new branch. And when we talk about branching, it literally is exactly that. If you think of a tree, you got the trunk and then you see your first branch. What is a branch? It's a split. It's a split where at that moment in time, things head in two different directions. So that's what we can kind of do. So if we actually go and, we can go and do this briefly with our carbonara, repos here. The history's a bit long. I'm just wondering if I could be bothered oops. Oh. All right, you're going to stay down there for the rest of the time. I was just trying to get it on my head. So what I can actually do here, this Git history is like a little bit long. It'd probably be good just to start another one. So if we just come back here, someone give me a repo name, please. Say a word. What? Panko? Mango. I thought you said nugget. Does anyone like McDonald's nuggets? I didn't eat them for 12 years because I thought they were gross. And then I ate one like 6 months ago and I can't get enough. And I used to break my friends. I'd be like, you put that filthy stuff in your mouth? And now I'm lost. All right. It's a real problem. Okay, so I'm going to clone my new Mango repo here. And we're going to do something we've done similarly where I'm going to... Oh, God. We'll give it a file, not called ingredients, but days. We're really running dry. And we'll put Monday here. Oh, this is really boring. So, Mango, great. I created that. I get status. I'm going to track the file that wasn't previously committed. I'm going to say, adding Monday here. I'm going to push it up to GitLab, and then across here, I'm going to go and pull it back down, right? The apostrophes confused it. Oh, Lord. So I push that up to GitLab. I'm going to pull it back down from GitLab. GitLab's got a file in it now. It's called days. By the way, you can remove things from GitLab too. Like if I don't like that README file, I can just go and remove that too. It's weird. You actually add it to remove it because you're nominating something for a commit, right? So I could go and you could go and add readme.md, and then you can commit that too, right? Removing stupid file. And same kind of thing. I can then come over here and I can git pull, and that will get rid of it locally as well. So now everyone has that file removed, and GitLab has it removed too. So now I've just got my days file. But if I make another couple of commits here, so let's say I add Tuesday or another Monday. So now I've got a few days here, right? Git add days and git commit adding a few days like this. And then I push that, right? We'll keep in sync. We don't need to keep in sync for now, but I've got a couple of commits to make sense of things. I had more commits than I thought. There you go, you got 4 commits. I only wanted 3, that was unnecessary. So this is the main or master branch right now. What I can do is I can go and create a new branch, and the new branch, when I create it, always kinds of forks off exactly where I am now. So this new branch we make might be called weekend. Except a really good way to describe your branches is to use your name with a slash and then what. It's like who and what. Who slash what. So, Hayden slash weekend. And this is the name of my branch. Now again, this is all still very abstract to you. It'll slowly start to barely make sense soon, right? If I want to see the branches that exist, I can type git branch. It's an easy way to list branches. I can see there's 2 there. There's my main branch and there's my Hayden slash weekend branch. So there's my 2 branches. And I can actually change between those branches too by going git checkout. Checkout is in, go check out that, go check out that. So I'm going to move between my Hayden slash weekend and my main branch like this, and I'm kind of tossing between them. But the interesting thing is that right now they're the exact same thing, because if we think about we think about the slides here, this is actually kind of the situation we've got. It's actually literally the situation we've got here. We've got 4 commits and 2 branches, but those 2 branches are kind of at the same point, right? They're we're exactly here. But what if I go back to my git, Hayden weekend branch, and then I make a new change, and that new change is going to be adding Saturday here. So I add Saturday there, and then I go git add days, git commit adding Saturday. I push that to GitLab. GitLab, when you push a new branch, GitLab sometimes is like, hey, you can't just tell me to push. You're going to have to copy and paste this command. So you just do what GitLab says and you don't ask too many questions out of fear. Copy, paste. I feel like there's a much... Why? Okay. Let's write it out. It saves me getting it wrong more times. The first time you push a new branch to GitLab, you kind of have to copy and paste that command, right? So now let's actually have a look at what's going on GitLab. So I've got my Mango repository. I can see your eyes are all starting to get more squinty as we get further into this. You're all like a little bit, all right, I was good before the break. On my main branch here, you can see that I've got this file called days, Monday, Monday, Tuesday. I can actually change the branch. Remember how I said branches are kind of like parallel realities or running at the same time? I can change that from main to Hayden/weekend, and what you'll notice is that now the file's a bit different. So I've kind of got these like literally parallel realities of things going on here. And I can also go and look at the commits because the commits are different. You can see that for the Hayden/weekend branch, there's 5 commits, which includes the adding Saturday, and on the main branch, there's just 4 commits, right? Because remember, we made 4 commits on the main branch, and then we stopped, and then we made a new branch where we kind of headed in another direction. You literally can visualize this like moving up the trunk of a tree, right? First commit at the base, moving up the trunk of a tree. We got to a point, we had our main branch here. We created another branch which like literally came off that. We made a new commit, and then we can kind of keep carrying this along too. I could go and check out my main branch again, and I could go and add another commit there if I want, if I wanted to. So, I could go and add like a 3rd Monday up the top here. And I could then add that Monday, and I could go and commit adding 3rd Monday. And I could push that on the main branch. And now we've kind of got these 2 parallel things running along here. So I've got like main where I have my adding 3rd Monday, and I've got my Hayden/weekend where I've got my adding Saturday. Right, so it's kind of similar to that like 2 computer thing we saw before, right? Like it looks similar to that, but it's actually just that like one person is managing these things, like managing these different realities. What's your name? Ahmed. Hi Ahmed, what's your question?
Is it possible to uncommit a certain branch and then go back to a certain version?
It is. That is one of the benefits of Git. It's so unnecessary in the course that we teach it in like week 9, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would be the point of having a new branch rather than just making commits on the same branch?
Excellent question, right? Ahmed's right onto the key point of education, which is like stop telling people what without understanding why, otherwise they're just going to look at you and be like, what is this, a waste of time? So a big part of why we do this is because if you imagine for a second that you are in a group of people, you're not in a group, you are with a group of people, right? And you have your like nice, clean, stable main master branch. It like works, everything's good. What you want to do is you want to go away and you want to go work on something for a few days. Maybe you're going to go add a new, what game did you make in 1511? Who made, what was Minesweeper, right? So you want to like go and make a change to Minesweeper, where everyone bringing back traumatic memories all of a sudden, You go and make a change where you're like, I'm going to expand the grid. I'm going to go from like a 6x6 to like a 9x9 or something like that. I have no idea what the assignment's about. And you say, well, there's a couple of ways you can manage this. You could work on that change for a few days and make lots of little commits, and you could just keep it on your local computer and not shove it up to the master main branch, right? Because maybe you don't even know if it's any good yet. Maybe it's still a work in progress. You don't want like your team members to get all your stuff, that's like half done. So you work on it locally and it's just in a little box there. That's okay, but the problem with that is that what happens if your computer dies, right? What happens if something goes wrong? What happens if you end up on another computer? What happens if someone needs to look at your work? You can't solve the problem just by like hiding on your computer. So then you think, what's the other alternative? Well, I could push it up to the main or master branch, the one branch, which would be good. But then the problem is you've got like half done work as you go that other people, as they're regularly pulling, maybe you're in a big team, they're going to get all this crap along the way, like poorly written code that you haven't finished, like it might not even work, it might not even compile, right? Like what happens if you're about to like leave the house for a few days? You probably want to push your work up and compile it, like even if it doesn't compile somewhere. So you can kind of think of branches as like a nice little way to like, kind of sneakishly develop something on the side. And the whole point of branches, and this comes back to your great question, is to bring it all back together. So you have your main master branch, which philosophically you want to keep to be like stable and working and simple. You create another branch like this weekend branch where I go and do all my work and imperfect work, and then once I'm really happy with it, the objective is to try and bring that back into master or main, to kind of collapse it all back in. So it's really just a way to temporarily work on the side and not disturb people while still using the benefits of Git. I have no idea if that answers your question.
Yeah,
Keep
so
going.
basically it's just avoid having to do git pull and git push.
the question was, does it help avoid doing git pull and git push and help avoid having a separate workspace? Like, yes, though I think it's like, yeah, it's really, I think it is honestly just what I said before. It's like, we could push it to git, but we'd annoy people. And if we didn't push it to git, it's not stored anywhere. You know, so it's an easy way to get around those two problems. So how this actually works in reality is that, and I'll give you a sense of the workflow that we actually experience and something that we'll be like pushing onto you in this course from Friday, which is that if you're over here working on, say, Hayden/weekend branch, right? And you go and keep working on it. So say that, you know, you now add another Saturday and a Sunday like this. Okay, git status, you go and add that, you go and add days, you go and commit it. You know, added more weekends. These dry examples are really hard to write good messages for. I go and push that up to like Hayden/weekend. I'm like, oh, I don't need to write that. Sorry. You can just do git push. Easy. I've got like more commits here. And let's say I really want to polish it off. I do the last thing I want to do. I know these examples are somewhat contrived, which makes the motivation of them quite unclear, but I've got my 4 weekend days now. Yay, we've solved the problem. Saturday, Sunday, and Sunday. So I go and I add and commit that one more time. Maybe this took me a couple of days to do, right? Added Sunday a second time. I push that up. And now on Git, you see I've got all these changes. Now what I want to do is I want to bring these into the master or main branch, right? Because I'm like, I'm done. I've done my work. It's time to like get off this little like side tunnel detour thing I have and bring it all back together into the main thing that my team is using, right? So branches are all about coming off to just, it's going off to come back, right? You're in a constant state with Git of trying to like technically like remove all your branches if you want to think about it like that. Like you only create them to get rid of them. So this is where things get like slightly more interesting, because if I've done this work, the next thing I'm going to do is actually use the Gitlab Ui for the first time. And we're going to create something that we call a merge request in Git. And there's a big blue button here that motivates you to click on it. And when you click on it, what it actually allows you to do is to set up kind of like a pre-merge to bring everything back together. And I'm going to give it a name like, you know, adding weekend days. And I can give it a description if there was anything to talk about. If there was anything to talk about. And you know, there's a few other things here like assignees and reviewers, and you can kind of ignore everything here. And you can just click this big create merge request button. And the Gitlab UI is really helpful because what it's actually doing here is it's trying to set up essentially a request that you are making where you said, I went off and did this work over here. I'd like to kind of finalize it and bring it back to everyone. And it even shows you that. It even shows you the 3 commits you've made with respect to the master main branch, right? These are the 3 commits that no one else has because they happened on my branch. These are the commits that happened since I went away from master or main. And when I click this create merge request button, it is doing exactly that. It is creating a request to merge. And there's a lot of like dials and text here, but it's a really simple page. It's quite literally saying, well, you made 3 commits. These are the changes. If you click this merge button, we will push it back into master or main, right? Now, as a matter of process with the people you work with, like your team, what you generally do is that before you merge something back into master or main, you expect that someone in your team, like another member, will go and look at it and at least one person will approve it. Collaboration, right? So if you're working in a group with people like you will for the major project, there'll be like 5 of you that have access to this one Git repository. You know, has anyone got GitLab up at the moment? Yeah, Zach. What's your ZID, Zach? Cool name. So I'm just going to add Zach to my one here. You'll never have to do this, but this is that little project I made. And Zach's now in it. And Zach, if you just navigate to like gitlab.cse and then you just go to the URL up there, /z3418003/mango, You should see this page, right? If you can stress. You done? You done? You done? You done? Yeah? Okay. Cool. So what Zach can do is Zach can actually literally, he'll see this on his screen. He'll see like this little 1 here next to the merge request. And just for the people watching online, no one can see anything more than you're seeing. We're all just winging it. And Zach will see this too. Zach will see that, oh, there's a request that Hayden has made that he's like, I've gone and done work over here and I'd like to bring it back in. And Zach can go and click this big approve button here if Zach's happy with my work. And if Zach's not happy with my work, in theory, you'd write comments and stuff here, and some of you might do it. But in projects this small, you're probably just going to message the person. You know, you're not going to be like one of those weirdos that's like, you know, well, many of you will do it. It's fine. Don't feel weird about it. But you know, typically if you're in these like at a big company. Like I have friends at Atlassian and Canva, and they'll make something like this, and they can wait like 1 to 5 weeks until everyone's happy with it, you know? Whereas like in your projects, you'll typically do something and be like, this is really important, and you'll go and nag someone to go and look at it. So Zach, did you approve it? Yeah?
I left the comment.
You left a comment. Okay. Needs some improvement. Okay. So Zach's also thumbs it down, which I can't do anything about. You don't have to approve it to merge it. You can merge it, so it's best practice more than a technical limitation. Like I pay for Bitbucket Premium at work, and Bitbucket Premium has like features in it, which is like you can't merge it unless someone's approved. Like you physically can't. Like it just won't let you. But it's more of a formality here. So Zach, thank you, my friend. Zach has approved it, it says there, and I'm like, great, someone has approved it, I can now merge it. And when I click that merge button, GitLab is actually running like Git commands behind the scenes. Like, you know, little servers are running Git merge, blah, blah, blah. And what you'll see now is when I go back to the repository and I go back to the main files, my main or master branch here now has everything in it, right? And what I actually have is when we made the merge request, we actually ticked a box that said, delete my branch when we're done, and it did that. You notice my Hayden/weekend is gone now? That branch is gone. I don't care about it anymore. It served its purpose, which was a temporary holding area while I did some work, and now it's back into master or main, and like it just never happened, and that's totally fine. And you can do the exact same thing many times over. So if I was to do another piece of work here, and then if I can pause for a sec, the tricky part is you always need to be in sync here. So if I go and check out the main branch again, I know it's called main, you'll never see that again in the course, it's always going to be called master. I actually still have to pull because GitLab up in the cloud did that merging in, and that main branch in GitLab in the cloud looks different, so I still need to actually do a git pull here to get those new changes. And you'll see that, you know, the Git log has all that stuff, and if I open up days.txt, I've got, you know, my Monday, Tuesday. And in this Mango repo, if I wanted to go make another file, that other file is going to be called campusfood.txt. What's your favorite food on campus? Stellini's. Man, that place is always pinging. Is that how you spell it? So many nods. You guys are rabid. Okay, so there I've got a file. I can add that file, but before I do that, I'm like, oh my god, I don't just want to add it and push it to my main or master because that's going to annoy everyone because everyone's constantly pulling off that, right? Like everything on main and master should be complete, finished work that's always working all the time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, I've made a change, but I'm actually going to branch off where I'm at here and make another one called Hayden/campusfood. And I'm going to go and now add that file and then commit that, adding pasta. I think they sell carbonara. And because it's the first time I'm pushing that branch, I need to kind of copy and paste this command, but I'm scared to fail copying it again, so I'm just going to write it out really quickly and install. Push that up to GitLab. And again, we can go to GitLab. We can go make sense of this. You can see there's 2 branches now. You can see that if I go look at the commits in my main branch, there's everything we've done so far, whereas if I go to Hayden/campusfood, there's that extra commit. I could go add another piece of campus food. What's something else people like to eat on campus? Yalla. Yeah. They're very close, those 2 places. Oops. How do you spell it? Is it Yala? Like I've been there today. All right. So I add campus food, adding more food. You push that. Great, we got more stuff. You think, all right, that's a critical mass. That's the only food anyone eats on campus. So I think we've covered that list pretty extensively. I go and create a merge request. Same kind of thing before. Adding spots to eat on campus. Maybe the description isn't too necessary. I only found 2 places, but I think that's all that exists that is worthwhile. Does anyone go to stock market? This is really sad. Everything's expensive now. Okay, Zach, help me out, mate. Zach. It's all right. Approval is optional, eh? So, not quite. But same thing, we got our commits, we got our 2 commits, we got our changes. Other people can look at this. GitLab has a really nice UI for it where you can just see those changes really easily and be like, oh, I can see exactly what you did. And then when I come here, Zach's approved it, I feel good inside. It says delete source branch, which is like, also, actually, this is a really good, I want to show you this. So don't do this in the course because like you're not allowed to, but like the GitLab UIs are very powerful because I can, if I want to, for instance, like GitLab is just a wrapper for Git. And I can actually go to the files if I really wanted to, and I could go to where's the file? Sorry, I could go to parallel histories, right? I could go to my branch, which has different files. I could open up campus food, and I can actually edit that file if I wanted to and add Subway on GitLab. And if I click commit changes, GitLab will actually make a commit for me. You know, like it just does that for you, like a UI. You're not allowed to do that in the course because we're trying to teach you some fundamental skills. But the point is that that's why these pieces of software exist. And I'll do that. I've added lines of code before on GitLab if they're like really simple, like 1 line of code, because it's like, I don't want to go and pull a terminal out to add 1 line of code. But you'll see here that, Zach made a good comment, and, done. Here's an interesting question. Zach approved it. I made some changes. Can I still merge it? Technically you can. Yeah. Approval is optional. Yeah, it's written right there on the page. So the short answer is that, I don't know, like can you? Like maybe. Should you? Perhaps. This is where like human discretion really matters. Obviously you can in this case because like it's not going to harm anyone, right? It's pretty normal to have someone approve your work and make changes. It's really then up to you as to whether you're like, have the changes I've made reasonably, challenge the assumptions that someone was making when they looked at this, right? If I went and added a new file or changed the features or something, maybe I should just ping them and ask them to look at it again. But in this case, it's like, no, it's okay. So I merge it. I go back here. You'll see that we now only have, 1 branch again because it got deleted. When I go look at my main files here, you'll see that, campus food. Okay, that was very sneaky. Okay, so Zach snuck a commit in. Okay, that was good. You get a cookie for that. So what Zach's done in this case is Zach has you've just done it on the GitLab UI too, right? Yeah, so Zach on the GitLab UI has just gone to that branch, done the exact same thing I did, clicked update, committed, and then when I merged it in, it all just came through there. So the point is that this is all we're really talking about in this lecture. There's a bunch of other things here that we could kind of go through it, and we could look at the theory of it. Like, okay, if you you make a branch, that branch is kind of like a fork in reality, and then you can check out other branches. We've kind of talked about this, and then you can merge things back together. Pretty much the only thing that we don't use the command line for in the course is merging. So you can actually do this merging on command line. You can actually I'll show you, it's really easy. You can if I go check out main again and I go and pull, right? And then I don't think we're gonna be going on too much longer, so just in case you're getting fatigued. I'm gonna make a new one called Hayden/stupid, and I'm gonna make a file called stupid with stupid in it, and that word's probably not gonna be PC in 10 years, and I'm gonna get cancelled for this, but let's just enjoy these moments while we can. You know, committing a bad word that I don't endorse, just in case, right? So then we push that, we can push that to GitLab if we want. Oh, sorry, I need to add some random stuff. But we don't need to do the we don't technically need to do the merge request stuff because the merge command in Git is a pull command. It's saying, I'm here, I want to merge you into me. That's the behavior. So I can go back to my main branch and I can actually just write git merge Hayden/ the bad word, and I've actually pulled that in already. So that whole merge request thing you saw on the GitLab website, I just did that on the command line. And the reason that we actually use the website for it, and in fact, everyone uses the websites for it, no one really does that on the command line, is because there's such a richer experience being able to approve stuff, look at the summaries of it, share it with other people, you know? It's a really enriched experience, whereas committing and stuff on the command line is not that different. You just, you know, so you really get a lot more out of it. But in reality, I just did the exact same thing, but I skipped all the checks and balances, right? So, but merging is pretty common. And in fact, merging is what GitLab kind of does anyway when we saw those other examples where two people were pushing at different times and they had to collapse it together. Git's really good at just smashing code together. And and this is the last, I guess, main thing. Let's imagine for a second that this is probably the more interesting scenario. Let's say that both myself and let's just say Josh here is on the right-hand side. Let's say that we're both on the main branch, right? Git checkout main. So we're both on the main branch, and then we both decide to go and do work separately. So on this one here, Josh is going to say, I'm going to go and look at campus food. And over here, I'm going to make my own branch too. Hayden/campus. Oh, you got the B. You need the little B. The B's make a new branch. Without it, it basically says, I can't go to that branch, Hayden, it does not exist. So the little -B is saying, I know it doesn't exist, so we're going to make one. So we've made one. I'm going to open up campus food, and I'm going to update this to say Independent Grocers Australia, because no one calls it that. Right? And then I'm okay, well, I'm going to go make a commit, more correct name or something. And I go push that up, and I don't have to type it out, I just copy and paste this. Command again. You know, and I've got that on a branch in GitLab, and then, you know, separately Josh is what are we missing from the list, Josh? GYG. Does anyone else GYG themselves out of GYG? Yeah, a couple people. Yeah, I can't eat it anymore. So Josh is adding GYG, except, sorry Josh, that didn't achieve my goal. I actually need to update something too, right? So let's say Josh is Independent Grocers AU or something, right? So again, changing the same line. We saw this happen before where we had to manually fix up the commit. So now Josh is going to say, well, okay, I'm going to add that file. Also, isn't this funny? So what's happened here is that we already kind of nominated a change for Git ready for a snapshot, but then we made something further. So Git's now all right, well, I've got some changes, but then you made some more changes. So if we just add it again, then Git's all right, I'm all good now, right? It's that's sweet. So we go and, adding GYG and cleaning up name. Now the point of doing this again, the reason we don't just push this stuff straight to master or main is because it's living in these nice bubbles, and we can go and get it approved, and we can bring it back in. And this merge request thing we're talking about is literally what you're going to be doing from this weekend onwards with your team as you merging code. So on Wednesday in the lecture, we're going to be talking about coding. It's just going to be coding for 2 hours, right? Learning JavaScript. And you'll be using, instead of using these silly text files with food ingredients in them, we'll be having silly coding files with code in them, right? So that's been pushed up to GitLab. you can see we've got a few branches here. Hayden campus, Josh campus. We are now going to try and merge those in. So let's say that Josh tries to merge something in first. I'm just going to keep that title. Adding GYG from Josh campus into main. Josh goes and adds it. I pretend that Zach approves it. I click merge. All is fine. But then separately imagine like that was on Josh's computer. Now I come over on my computer and I go and find my branch. And I think, oh, I've got this nice little Hayden campus branch here. And then I'm like, I'm going to go create a merge request for it. I can't wait for everyone to see how I've cleaned up the IGA name to its proper name, more correct name. I might make that a bit clearer. Come down here, create merge request. And you see it's not very happy. It says merge blocked. Merge conflicts must be resolved. So just like we couldn't pull without doing some manual intervention, GitLab won't let us merge without some manual intervention. Because it's like, I have no idea how to combine independent grocers Australia and independent grocers AU. So there's a couple of ways you can do this. If the change is really simple, you can generally come and use GitLab's Ui. Wow, this projector does not show colors very well. You can see that. There's like some green and some blue. And you can pick one. You can be like Hayden's or Josh's. And like choose one, right? But in this case, maybe that's not right. Like let's say, okay, maybe this is fine and like, you know, Josh did something better, so we just pick Josh's. But what if I was right and it should be Independent Grocers Australia, but we also want Josh's GYG? You know, it's like not that simple. So what you do in this case is you go and resolve it locally, and they'll give you a whole bunch of instructions, but don't read these because it'll give you a headache and you'll just do it wrong. And I don't know what that means. But let's say, I think this is me here on the left. So what I'm going to do now is there's a few different ways you can do this, but one of the most kind of conceptually straightforward ways, that's maybe a few extra commands, is that I'm going to say, well, Josh merged some stuff into main before, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go check out main, and I'm going to get Josh's latest code. So Josh merge that code from Josh/campus into main/master. That's now here. And you can see that I'm on the main branch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go check out my Hayden/campus branch, which is the one I have my merge request for, right? It's the Hayden/campus branch. And I'm going to merge main/master into my branch. Right, I'm going to go and try and pull Josh's chain. This is just like how we did the git pull before. Remember how we did the git pull when someone else did something over here and we basically pulled it down from GitLab and tried to slap it together and we had to resolve things manually? It's all the same concept. We're literally just saying, well, Josh beat me. Josh has got some stuff up here and I'm going to have to try and resolve this mess. So I'm just going to try and merge it in. Another way you could do this besides hitting this command is you could actually just say git, I think you can do this. You can actually just say git pull origin main or master, which is like a very sneaky way to kind of just say, I'm on this branch, can I just try and pull that branch straight into mine? Like let's just try and pull main straight into mine. Both of those work and there's like 5 other ways you could do it. But you can see here that I get this conflict and I have to do exactly what I did before with the other conflict where I open it up. Git's got these little symbols and stuff here, and I say, well, actually, I think I got the name right. I've talked to Josh. We've had an understanding. We still like each other. We fix that up, and then I go and add it, campus food. I go and commit it, resolving merge conflict, and then I go and push it to my branch, right? Because what branch am I on? I can check. Git branch tells me what branch I'm on, and even git status tells me what branch I'm on. Look at the top line there, on branch Hayden/campus. The information's always there, but I'm actually going to commit it. I already committed it, and then I'm going to push it to my branch. And what do you know? It's right here. I can see I've got 2 commits. There are the changes, and Git's giving a moment to assess the setup. It's like cool. And then someone else approves it, and then I can merge it in. Whew, wasn't that fun, right? This is the most boring lecture of the term. We like to really, really hit you hard early on. Again, slides are just demonstrative here. This lecture, we don't refer to the slides much because the demo is quite clear. So, in summary, what we've done tonight, isn't this enough for your introductory lecture on YouTube? Yeah, it is. So, it sounds like a lot, but it's actually pretty straightforward, and once you do it 5 times, you'll be like, this was really easy, right? The reason we talk about all of this today is because otherwise what happens is the approach is to like release something to you on Friday and then tell you that we'll talk about it next week. And we try really hard in this course not to give you things to do where we haven't explained everything to you already, right? So lots of stuff to take in. You only need that first hour for the labs this week. So don't stress if the last part's kind of a bit confusing. The last parts with the merging and the branches are really for your project, which is something you worry about next week. So, you know, don't feel like we're just pummeling you on day 1. That's really about it though, because we are at the end there. Now, as I said, Wednesday we will be online. We will just be doing lots of coding. It'll be a lot more fun. Do leave some feedback if you can. And if you are stressed about it, just remember practice makes perfect. And thank you for hanging around an extra 13 minutes. I appreciate it. Please have a safe trip home. I know it's late for some of you, and there's probably a couple of you here that don't like coming home this late, so look after yourselves and have a good evening. So thank you, everyone. And thank you to everyone online as well for joining. See you soon.